I'm going to show you how to make this cute little shamrock out of fondant, or you could use flour paste or gum paste as well. This shamrock we put on top of cupcakes at St. Patrick's Day, but you could put it on top of a cake or any other item. The tools that you'll need to create the shamrock, you'll need a roller. We use this one, but you could even use a glass if you didn't have a roller, or a wooden roller. Over here. I've got a couple paintbrushes here and a little tub of water that I use to smooth the fondant to give it a real consistent look around the edges. I've got a flower or a leaf stainer here that we use to make the petal shape. This tool is actually a clay tool that we have kind of repurposed. We bought it for fondant only, and we use it only on fondant. I have an X-Acto knife. And this is actually a food color marker by Americolor that we use for a lot of our sugar art. They work great. It's a real easy way to get concise lines on your sugar items. This is a 5-petal cutter that we use. Typically you would use this for roses, real small roses or other flowers, but we're going to actually use this to create our shamrock. I'm going to move these out of the way and show you the fondant pieces that I've pre-rolled. I've got a large piece of green fondant here that I'm going to use to create the shamrock body. I've got 2 smaller pieces, one slightly smaller than the other, that I'm going to use for the shamrock's lip right here. And the slightly larger one is going to be for his little nose. And then these 2 white ones, you can probably guess, are for his little eyes. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy parts. I'm going to go ahead and work my fondant a little bit in my hands. Roll it up in the warmest part of my hand to get it good and ready to roll out so I won't have any cracks or creases. Now I'm working with pretty fresh fondant, but if you're working with a little bit older fondant, you would just need to work it just a little bit longer. Got my fondant there, and I'm going to roll it out. Now for this particular character, you want it to be kind of thick, definitely thicker than you would for flowers, because you want it to have a 3-dimensional feel, or at least 2-dimensional. So I'm going to take my 5-petal cutter. I'm actually going to press that down pretty firmly. And don't be alarmed if it pops up like mine did. Pull that off. Go ahead and set this aside. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paintbrush that I've set aside here, dip it in a little water, and squeeze off the excess. And I'm going to go around my shamrock, and I'm going to be sure that I have all my little stray edges taken care of here. It's almost impossible to pull it out of the cutter without stray edges. I have some pretty good cutters here from PME, but I think that I've never had one come out perfect. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take my small veiner tool, and I'm going to actually use the smaller end, and I'm going to go around to 4 of the petals and kind of scrunch them up in the middle to give that shamrock look to those petals. Use my finger and kind of tap them down a little bit. Now I'm going to reposition it just a little so you can see. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife now, and I'm going to cut out just a little bit from that 5th petal. Peel that away. Grab that paintbrush again. Whoops. Toss that over there. Grab that paintbrush again, and I'm going to clean up these edges. Make it real smooth. You can see it's kind of shaping up here. Good looking shamrock. I'm going to grab that clay tool I mentioned earlier. This has a curved end on it that makes a great little smile for our little guy. I'm going to kind of press it in, not all the way, just enough. Kind of wiggle it back and forth to give that nice smile. And I'm going to take the thin end of my flower veiner and give that a little pull there to open that mouth up. Use your finger to smooth it if you want to. And actually reposition this little leaf here up a little higher. You can move that around as you feel necessary. I'm going to take the smaller ball and warm it up a little bit in my hand. I'm going to place that in his mouth. Looks a little silly, but it'll work. I'm going to take the wider end of my tool, and this kind of creates a bottom lip or even a tongue. You could look at it that way. Grab my paintbrush. I've got a little jagged edge there. I can take care of that with my paintbrush. Usually use my paintbrush inside the mouth a little bit so the back of the mouth looks a little smoother. Give him a nice little mouth there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to warm up my little white pieces for his eyes. And get a little water here. I'm going to wet just a little place on his face for his eyes. You don't need much water, just a little. Go ahead and you want kind of a oval shape for his little eyes. Position that exactly where you want it on his little face and just press it in. The differences in the way the pieces come out make really unique faces and facial expressions. So each one doesn't need to be perfectly the same if you're making a lot of them. In fact, I think it works out a little bit better if they're not. Kind of position that. Now this is where it comes to life. I'm going to grab my Americolor marker here. I'm actually going to draw in his little eyes. These markers are great, and they come in lots of different colors. I use them for lots of stuff. Draw in some cartoon eyes here. Pretty cute. I'm going to grab my paintbrush again, and I'm going to put a little wet spot. And careful not to touch those eyes, because that'll bleed. Put a little wet spot underneath there, and I'm going to warm up my little nose here in my hand again. And again, I think a little bit of an oval shape works great for the nose as well as for the eyes, to give it a little movement. Go ahead and place that nose on there. And he is ready to go. Almost. Got one more thing. After I have all of the pieces where I think I might want them, I'm going to look at his expression and see what kind of eyebrows he needs. In this case, I think I'm going to give him some little rounded ones. He looks a little mischievous. I'm going to give him some rounded eyebrows. Super cute. Now he can find a home on top of a cupcake.